Good afternoon. We're back here in my kitchen. I am Renee and I have a helper today. Lydia, do you want to say hi? Hi. All right, so we're doing a interesting presentation today because it's actually really dear to my heart. And obviously, after the presentation, we'll be sharing with you a fun recipe that you can try to do at home. So our topic today will be Alzheimer's disease and what we need to be more mindful of when you are starting to feel the symptoms of it, or you have a loved one at home who are experiencing symptoms of Alzheimer's. I'm going to share my screen and we can start our webinar right now. Okay, so I'm Renee and I am a registered dietitian in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and I have a master's degree in clinical nutrition from NYU, and I've been practicing dietetics for about 11 years now. Time has gone by so quickly. I've been in hospitals, long-term care homes, also cardiac rehab centers and dialysis centers, but ultimately, I love food, and here I am in Vancouver with my own business, TrueNosh.com. Visit us, and there are a lot of recipes, a lot of blogs on there, as well as if you have any questions after the presentation, you can always email me info@TrueNosh.com. Okay, so Alzheimer's disease. It is a type of dementia, and it's one of the most common types of dementia, and it affects memory, thinking, and decision making, and it has symptoms that grow more and more severe as time goes by, and it actually eventually does interfere with daily tasks. Alzheimer's is one of the leading causes of death in North America, and in Canada alone, there's about 10,000 cases a year. So it is something that's pretty prominent in our world today. What I'm concerned about is obviously nutrition and food. And as the symptoms progress, regular nutritious meals become a big challenge, mainly because the cognitive function declines. And people who have symptoms of dementia and Alzheimer's often feel very overwhelmed with so many food choices laid in front of them, and they get really confused and frustrated. And sometimes forget to eat because the hunger signals don't act the same anymore, and you just skip meals, and therefore a lot of people suffering from Alzheimer's have symptoms like weight loss, and that's not good for someone who is have Alzheimer's because you need the energy, right? And then utensils also. So it doesn't only affect your cognitive skills, but it affects your other skills like picking up things with your fingers and eating with your mouth. So these causes a huge problem when you're trying to eat. So there are utensils out there that actually help people with Alzheimer's pick up their food a little bit easier. Okay. Symptoms. It is not actually a part of normal aging. So these factors I'm going to tell you does increase because of your age, but yeah, so the mainly people who have Alzheimer's are older than 65, but it doesn't actually have to be related to age. And there are two types of Alzheimer's, like an early onset as well as a late onset, which usually happens in our society. And it is a disease that worsens over time. So the symptoms gradually get worse and worse throughout the years. In its early stage, though, so if you are having, doubts about if your mom or your dad or your aunt or your grandparents are starting to suffer from Alzheimer's or dementia, you want to be very on your toes in the early stages, and you want to go and seek out the doctor. So in your early stage, symptoms include memory loss, but it's not very prominent. It's little bit mild. It's more towards the end, late stage Alzheimer's. People lose their ability to actually carry on conversations and to talk to you, or even to respond to stimuli around their atmosphere or environment. And then Alzheimer's disease include not only just mental function, but because it does decline your brain function, your emotional behavior changes. Therefore, a lot of people suffer from personality changes too. So you might not recognize the personality of the person that you have been, in close contact with for the last maybe 20, 30 years, because Alzheimer's affects someone's personality as well. Language may be an issue, and memory is a huge one. So if it's like later stage Alzheimer's, some people might not even remember their children. And perception, thinking, and judgment, those are very important to be more mindful of, because they are easily to feel fear, and they're scared more readily too. Symptoms. So there's usually 7 stages, but then I broke it down into 3 stages to make it a little bit more simple. Early symptoms, as I said before: memory loss, misplacing items, forgetting the names of where you've been or where you're at. Also, the names of certain objects that it's very simple maybe to me or you, but it's not the same to either your mom or your grandparents, right? And they always repeat themselves regularly, or repeat things to you regularly, such as asking the same questions and also telling you the same things that they saw in the news already maybe a week ago. And then they become less flexible and more hesitant to try new things because, their sense of fear has heightened. And in the middle stages, symptoms include confusion and disorientation. So more of that symptom because your brain is not really communicating to the rest of your body. So many people feel confused of where they are and how they got to the place that they are. And they become a little bit more obsessive. Again, the repetitive behavior and even impulsive behavior starts to increase. They also tend to have delusions, so they become delusional, and they don't believe things that are untrue, or believing things that are untrue. And like our society today, because of social media, that is quite dangerous, and they become spreading news that are basically fake, and they don't have any backing to the news that they are spreading. And problems with speech and language, and it's hard to form words or like cohesive sentences. That's a middle stage symptom. And sometimes sleeping is an issue, and mood changes. So sometimes all of a sudden they get really sad, and all of a sudden they get mad. And feelings of depression and anxiety can be very, very prominent during the middle stage of Alzheimer's, and as well as performing spatial tasks. So when you tell someone that, you just have to walk a block, which is about, 100 meters away, and they have very confused look on their face because they actually don't understand what you're trying to tell them. Or if you're trying to tell them to turn right, and they don't remember what right is. And that's often something that is really sad to know, because it's something that decreases your ability to do things. And later symptoms that involve a lot of difficulty switching positions, and when you're moving around, you need assistance because that fear has very, very much increased in your body. Weight loss also, because although sometimes before dementia or Alzheimer's, people tend to eat a lot and put on weight, but when you have Alzheimer's, your enjoyment of food and your memory of food and your wanting of food decreases. Therefore, you skip meals, or even skip meals the entire day, and Therefore, weight loss is an issue. And as you age, especially for women, you know, a lot of times osteoporosis is a prominent disease too. So as you weight loss, you lose that lean body mass and you don't have that muscle wrapped around your bones, you can fall really easily as well. So you have to be more mindful of taking care of the elderly as they age and make sure they still do exercises, go walk around, still do some gardening, things that they like. And then very later symptoms, you may think that they can't speak anymore because they can't form words. And then they have really huge problems with memory. They usually remember long-term memories and things that happened like 20, 30 years ago, but short-term memories that happened yesterday or today is very difficult for people to remember. Some risks. So Alzheimer's is actually not a normal part of aging, as we talked about earlier, but some of the greater known risk factors is increasing age. And we talked about that people over 65 have more of an increased risk. There is unfortunately no cure currently, but there are treatments and medications and things that you can do for your loved one, or the person who has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's can do for themselves to slow down the symptoms and not get to the middle stage and late stage as quickly. So age is a factor, family history and genetics. So if your mother or father or grandparents have Alzheimer's, it usually increases your risks of having Alzheimer's as well. People with Down syndrome has an increased risk. And if you have been involved in an accident or had an injury to your head, that can have an increased risk for getting Alzheimer's. And if you also have cognitive impairment and you've already been diagnosed as a young age, that can also increase your risk. So how doctors diagnose that you have or your loved one has Alzheimer's? Well, a lot of times it is advanced testing such as PET scan on your brain, your MRI, even taking samples of your DNA and spinal fluid to analyze. And doctors can see if they have these images in front of them. There are these plaques called amyloid plaques or tau tangles in your brain that appear in specific locations throughout. These two are very distinct places and marks in your brain that tell your doctor that this is a sign of Alzheimer's. It is associated with genetics too. So if you know that you have a family history, you might want to go and seek out help and prepare yourself to see what you can do earlier on to slow down the progression. And also lifestyle and environmental factors affect that too. So, you choose smoking and you drink a lot of alcoholic beverages and you don't sleep well at night, those things can cause an increase of Alzheimer's and can affect your brain cells over time. Because once you get Alzheimer's, your brain actually starts shrinking, mainly the posterior part of your brain. And that's also a main diagnosis that your doctor can tell that you have Alzheimer's. Some other concerns, because it is a progressive disease and loss of appetite and weight loss, is a major concern. And therefore, your doctor will either suggest taking supplements in between meals to add calories, and they will also ask you to seek out a dietitian like me that can help you out with increasing different calorie-dense foods, okay? And some causes that may occur during Alzheimer's that can cause poor appetite is not recognizing food. So some people don't even know that the food is in front of them and don't know that you can actually put that in your mouth and start chewing and swallowing. Dentures, a lot of people with old age and has dentures, they forget to bring their dentures, or their caretaker forget to bring their dentures during mealtime. or if the dentures are too big or too small, because the gums actually change shape when you age too. So you always want to visit the dentist regularly to make sure dentures fit properly, or else it could be very painful and the person who has Alzheimer's does not want to eat because it hurts. Some medication. And medication, the dosage changes often due to the person's health conditions, and that can also affect appetite. And people who don't exercise enough, if you don't have enough physical activity and you don't feel hunger and you don't feel like you're thirsty, you're going to forget to eat. And therefore, encouraging someone to go for a walk or to pick up a water bottle and start lifting when they're watching TV or going gardening, those are important things. And even just simple tasks like washing dishes, that's something that you can do, and it is movement, right? Smell and taste decrease. So the food doesn't smell good, or it doesn't smell like anything at all. And when you put things in your mouth, it also doesn't taste like anything at all, or it doesn't taste like things that once did, because your brain is a big decision maker, and it also helps you to decipher tastes and smells, and that doesn't work anymore. Therefore, the food doesn't taste as good, or it doesn't taste like it should be. Okay. Management. So people with Alzheimer's don't actually need a special diet if they are diagnosed with only Alzheimer's. Okay, so if there's Alzheimer's and another disease that are coupled with Alzheimer's, usually old age, people have some sort of heart disease like increased cholesterol or heart disease or diabetes. Therefore, they also need to be on a more special diet. If it's just Alzheimer's, you only need to be concerned of a well-balanced diet and improve your overall health. So basic nutrition tips, as we talked about before, I've been talking about good fats and good protein and high complex carbohydrates, and foods that have low sodium, how we can decrease our sodium intake in previous sessions of mine. So go to the ConnecTra Facebook page or their YouTube page, or even mine, True Nosh's Facebook page, and go review some of the sessions that we talked about, right? And I will reiterate it here. If you have any questions, always email me too. A balanced diet with variety, important, because we want to choose different colors of fruits and vegetables, different textures of fruits and vegetables. We want to keep it eating still fun. And fruits and vegetables, whole grains, low fat dairy, lean proteins are very important in basic nutrition. Foods with high saturated fat or cholesterol, you should limit. So I'm talking about meat that has a high percentage of marbling. Or if you're buying ground beef, you can always choose the one with more lean meat versus the one with more fat, okay? And then, choosing more fruits and vegetables, more like a plant-based diet, can decrease your cholesterol, as well as increasing fiber. So last week, I remember I had a whole slide talking about soluble fiber and insoluble fiber and how they can be good for decreasing cholesterol, as well as feeding your intestinal gut microflora, as well as producing some sort of some essential fatty acids to your GI tract and decrease IBS. We talked about that. But it also helps your food get digested and absorbed, and also helps you manage your waste too. So fiber is great. Decreasing saturated fat and cholesterol is great also. Refined carbs in processed foods. So talking about those chips or those cereals that we have a lot of different calories with refined sugars in them. Not exciting for someone who is trying to be healthy, right? Because they also lack vitamins and minerals, and they don't have fiber at all. And that is important for you to maintain a healthy, balanced diet. But I do have a note here that says if you have later stages of Alzheimer's, and a loss of appetite is a problem. So if you don't have enough calories and you're losing weight and you're losing protein mass and you're losing your lean body mass, that is a concern. And sometimes adding a little sugar or honey to your foods may encourage eating, but only then you can consider that adding a little bit of flavor to your foods. If the person accepts it and eats more, that is fine. Limit foods with high sodium. Okay, so we talked about that because sodium can increase your blood pressure. So someone who has Alzheimer's already quite stressed and frustrated because they don't remember things and they don't know what right and left is. They already have a heightened blood pressure mainly because of their environment, okay? And frustration and confusion. So salt should be decreased, and you should look for spices like garlic powder or onion powder. We'll talk about later on how to make your own curry spice, or you can just buy some curry powder. But the reality is most people consume too much sodium already because it's in mostly everything. Like sugar, sodium is in everything. And by cutting down the salts that you use, to sprinkle on your food or when you're cooking, you can cut down the sodium in your diet. Choosing spices, as I said, and even herbs. So what I've done with my company, I have this product called Thyme for Salt, and it's basically 1 scoop of thyme and 1 scoop of salt, and therefore you mix it all together, and then 1 whole teaspoon is basically half the amount of salt that you would need to cook for, because half of the spoon will be some thyme, and that increases a lot of flavor and aroma when you're cooking. Okay, so staying hydrated, as I am taking a sip of my coffee. People also forget about drinking, because the same idea they forget about eating is drinking also something that is easily not managed, and offering small sips and small cups can be easily done throughout the day. If not, water is something that they can't eat because dysphagia is a problem in a lot of elderly people because they can't swallow really thin liquids. And sometimes the water that they're made to drink is thickened, and that is not a exciting time. I've tried some thickened water. So other liquids can be encouraged, so fruits also has a lot of liquids, and choosing fruit vegetables like cucumbers have a lot of liquid, or zucchini, and even soups, milkshakes, as well as smoothies. Okay, make mealtime easier. So these are things that people who have Alzheimer's, are usually middle to late stages, need some sort of caretaker to help them out with their meal times. And this slide is mainly for people who are taking care with these, for of their loved ones with Alzheimer's or at a care home, right? So you want to limit distractions. So your meals should be in a quiet setting, and the television shouldn't be on, and people who are carrying a heated conversation, you should try to stay away from, because people with Alzheimer's get distracted very, very easily. Keeping the table setting simple. So only putting utensils, you don't need flowers, you don't need a really patterned tablecloth, because the next point is you really want to make sure that they know what food is versus the plate. And if there's so many things on the table, including patterned plates or bowls, that can be very, very confusing. So try to have a white tablecloth, or like one color tablecloth, and also use white plates or bowls, and maybe a contrasting placemat that can help with the deciphering of a plate versus an actual food. always check the food temperature, because someone with dementia or Alzheimer's cannot be able to tell if the food is too hot or too cold, and they might burn themselves. So be careful if the food is too hot. And they can also not be able to decipher that if a food is not hot enough. So if the kitchen is not cooking the food to temperature, you don't want people getting sick, right? And also serving foods only 1 or 2 at a time. So if you have a meal that's like potatoes and green peas and roast beef or something, so try to eat the green peas first, and then bring in the beef, and then bring in the potatoes, because it can simplify someone's perception and they don't have to choose the food that they eat first, because it can always be a little bit overwhelming. Be flexible with food preferences. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I know that this person loves this and they will definitely eat it if you buy it. Well, that can be thrown out the door, because Alzheimer's is a brain disease, and people's personality and preferences can change. So they might suddenly develop something new that you have not known before, or reject the foods that liked in the past. So try different foods and be flexible. If you don't like this, maybe you can try another thing too, right? And time is important. Chewing and swallowing can be easily forgotten. So encourage them to chew and swallow carefully so it doesn't go down the wrong tube, right? A lot of people choke because of that. Eating together. So meals can be enjoyable. And, when other people are eating, you can also encourage them to eat as well. And the experience can be a positive experience. And people usually eat better when they are in the company of others. Keep in mind the person, they may not remember when they ate. So it's common that they keep asking about breakfast. And so if they want breakfast and you know that they like breakfast, maybe you can just serve 3 meals of breakfast items. And that's not something that should be cringed at. It should be something that you can to do for them to encourage them to eat. So the diet, as I said, there is no real Alzheimer's diet. It's really just a balanced, healthy, nutritious meals that are really important. But some things that you can minimize eating and nutrition problems are listed in this slide, because you really want to limit choking. You really want to limit weight loss, and you really want to increase safety concerns, right? So when you're preparing foods, try not to prepare foods that are hard to chew and swallow. If it's something that you know it's hard, you want to cut them smaller or grind them up or puree them, right? So these are some examples, like applesauce. Cottage cheese are smaller than larger blocks of cheese, and scrambled eggs versus hard-boiled eggs, right? And be alert. So you need to understand and see the signs of choking, and you want to prevent it as much as possible. So when it's difficult to chew, you know that you need to offer liquids in between each bite, and try to see if it's something that's too hard, like a raw carrot, as I said here, a raw cucumber or a raw beet. Those may not be the best choices. And sitting up straight, is very important to keep your trachea straight so it doesn't go down the wrong path. And if the person tilts backwards, usually you want to help them move their head forward. And then at the end of the meal, always ask them to open their mouth to see if everything is swallowed, because they might keep their foods in their cheeks. That has been seen in a lot of care homes, and they just keep it there and they don't swallow it, and that can rot their teeth. And then eventually, when they realize that they do that, they might choke, because it is a bigger piece of food that they don't know how to chew or swallow. learning how to do the Heimlich maneuver is a good task and skill to have, just in case of emergency. And then when you're addressing a decreased appetite, so if someone does have an issue with eating, really what you can do is preparing different types of foods, and maybe always some of their favorite foods, to encourage them to eat. Go for a walk with them, go and garden with them, and take them out, to go shopping. That can be also something that you can do to increase physical activity. Smaller meals rather than 3 large ones. That's important for people with diabetes also. And people who has an appetite that does not increase, you might want to consult a dietitian or doctor to see what meal replacements they can do. A lot of companies are making shakes that you can encourage them to drink in between meals. Also some protein supplements as well, and some make sure that they have all their multivitamins intact. And keep in mind, as the person's ability and activity decreases, they also may not need as many calories as you think they do too. So you want to calculate their daily caloric needs by the amount of weight and by the amount of physical activity they do. And also consulting a dietitian really helps. And I said sometimes a physician or your doctor will recommend vitamin supplements, and we can talk about that later. I have a slide for that. So good foods. Again, healthy fats. Olive oil is great. So those are polyunsaturated fats, omega-3 fatty acids, fatty fish like mackerel, salmon, anchovies, and sardines have a lot of good omega-3 fatty acids. Flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, hemp seeds, those are your plant-based foods with high omega-3 fatty acid inside of them too. So if you're plant-based, go look for these types of seeds and nuts. Whole grains. What we love about whole grains is because they have all the vitamin B's intact in their whole endosperm, right? And choosing things like brown rice or whole wheat pasta or whole wheat bread can help you have enough fiber as well as all the vitamin B's that are intact. And barley, quinoa. So what I've done, in a previous session, we've mixed different grains in our rice to make sure that we have all those good things in it. So you can mix white rice with brown rice and add a scoop of quinoa and even add a sprinkle of flax seeds for that texture. The Journal of Alzheimer's Disease show that you can reduce your risk by 65% by drinking 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day. So start doing coffee a day now, unless you have other illnesses like kidney disease, liver disease, right? Coffee may not be the best thing for you. And if you have problems sleeping, you may want to only drink coffee before midday, and that cannot disturb your sleep, right? And what else? I've lost my, okay. So we're also talking about vitamin D. Vitamin D is a hot topic now. There are a lot of different research being done on vitamin D, mainly because of COVID, and high intakes of vitamin D has been shown to decrease your risks and also help people recover a bit quicker with the vitamin D supplementation. But vitamin D, you can also go outside and absorb it from the sun. So don't always stay inside, have fun outside. And again, if you're vitamin D, if you're eating a lot of vitamin D, you might want to consider eating it with omega-3 fatty acids, because they can actually both help prevent Alzheimer's disease. And people with high levels of both nutrients, the vitamin D and the omega-3s, were able to clear their brains of amyloid plaque. So that's pretty big news when you eat those together, and that can really prevent you from progression of the disease and to even prevent that in your later lives. High antioxidants. So berries have so many different antioxidants in them. It is the end of the berry season, but what you can do is freeze them. So get your raspberry fix, your blueberry fix, you know, and you can always freeze them and make smoothies and, you know, swirl them in ice cream or your yogurt. And you can also put them in a little pie tart and sprinkle some oats on them and make a crumble. And you can also do what we did last week, is have a stovetop crumble. So instead of peaches, I used peaches last week. You can use berries, and you can just do the same thing and sprinkle some of your favorite granola on top. Because antioxidants are able to reduce the plaque in your brain that is causing Alzheimer's. Spices, so there are like 4 major spices that have been known to have certain different polyphenols that can help with cognitive recovery. So turmeric, we're going to use today. Cocoa, which is chocolate. When you're choosing chocolate, try to choose the one with a higher percentage of cocoa or cacao, and decreasing amount of refined sugars. So try to avoid a chocolate bar that has more than 15% of your daily value. And we talked about how to read the labels in a previous session. Make sure you always flip to the back, look at the nutrition label, look at the sodium, look at the saturated fat, look at the carbs and sugar, and make sure for sugar especially, you need to be under that 15% to be a good food for, in my opinion. Cinnamon is great. We used cinnamon last week. We're also going to be using cinnamon today. And nutmeg. Nutmeg is a really big nut that you shave. You can always buy nutmeg in a powdered form, but I find it a lot of fun shaving nutmeg, and it really adds a lot of aroma to your coffee or to your milk or to your chocolate, and even to like your desserts. And 1 nutmeg lasts a long time. And then lastly, increasing your consumption of leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. We talked about what cruciferous vegetables are last time, and they are your broccoli, your cauliflower, right, and your carrots even are cruciferous vegetables. The list is pretty long. I encourage you to go back to my previous session to learn more about cruciferous vegetables. These will ultimately decrease your risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. So choose the greens, and we're not just trying to tell you to eat greens for nothing. Greens are amazing things. So add them to your diet. This is a long slide, but we're almost done, okay? And we can cook very, very soon. So during the middle and late stage of Alzheimer's, you want to also encourage independence, because the sense of independence is important, and you want to also help them decrease their frustration. Usually a lot of times is they're frustrated with themselves. Like, they're like, why can't I do this? I should be able to do this, and I know I can do this. So try to encourage that positive, independent behavior. Make the most of that person's ability, right? So try to buy different serving utensils and dishes to make eating easier. Maybe serving things in a bowl versus a plate. So a plate is hard to scoop, right? A bowl is a lot easier. And even looking for rims that people can hold onto while they scoop up the food, it can help a lot. And even the handle of the spoon also. So these are things that you can be mindful of when you are buying plates and bowls and utensils. And then serving finger food. So if you don't want, a mess, maybe trying to, serve up chicken nuggets or fish sticks, or even like tiny finger sandwiches, oranges that peeled or in segments that they can just pick up, and also seem like broccoli and cauliflower is also very easy to pick up. So things of foods that you can use with the fingers instead of utensils, and that can make life a lot easier for the person with Alzheimer's. The watch me technique. So maybe eating with them and you holding a spoon and eating, they can also mimic you. So it is kind of going back in time, and you kind of want to think of when you are feeding a child and showing them how to do it, that can be the same technique. And always, neatness is not a big issue. You just have to clean it up. Food washes out. So, you know, it's really about the person eating, and the neatness. You shouldn't have, make them feel guilty or ashamed that they made a mess, right? So considering plates that have suction cups. So if there's a cup that you can actually and put down and it sucks to the table, that can be something that can avoid spills later on. Okay, so physical activity, we talked about this slide every time we are on here. Because you need physical activity to increase your lean body mass, or maintain your lean body mass, and as well as bone density, so you don't get osteoporosis. Muscles protect against obesity. It's not a big issue for Alzheimer's, but it is a big issue in our world today. Muscles promote insulin sensitivity, so therefore decreasing your risk of diabetes. But most importantly, and promote circulation. So you need circulating blood to carry oxygen and waste, so you want to make sure you help decrease, increase circulation to help waste management, as well as getting the energy, the nutrients to your body. Healthy BMI, everyone is, kind of trying to maintain a body weight at this time when they have Alzheimer's. So when you are looking at someone, try to help them go towards a healthier body weight, and therefore keeping a healthy BMI with increased physical activity, increased lean body mass, so then they can be healthy and active as they age is very important. Helps you also manage your stress. So energy, helps circulation, but it also releases serotonin that can actually make you happier after you exercise. And muscles play a very important role to prevent diseases, especially as we age. Supplements. I said we were talking about supplements later on, and this is the slide. Some doctors would recommend taking antioxidant pills or turmeric pills that can help you prevent Alzheimer's. Also, like omega-3 fatty acid pills or fish oil pills. But the thing is, I want you guys to understand that something that's labeled natural doesn't mean it's safe. And there are a lot of pill companies out there trying to get rich fast. But the reality is the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, doesn't approve the safetiness of these supplements. So you have to be careful when you buy supplements and make sure that they're coming from a legitimate source. And one way you can do, or you can go to confirm the drug and the supplement that you want to buy, is go to the National Medicines Comprehensive Database, and they might have something there that can help you understand what's in the pill that you are eating. Choose your health. This is just one of the last slides I want to reiterate. Quit smoking if you are smoking. There are a lot of things and places that you can go out and seek help. You can firstly talk to your pharmacists, and they already might have something that can help you. Increased physical activity, we talked about why that is important. Sleeping, really important because it helps keep your brain healthy. It actually is found that proper levels of melatonin throughout the life can prevent plaque from forming, so that's important too. Follow a healthy diet. We talked about that. I don't have to go and talk about the vegetables and whole foods. Go and seek out all your fruits and vegetables. Eat all the colors of the rainbow. Google a new recipe every week. And fiber is always your best friend. So if I'm going to reiterate this one, because everyone needs at least 25 grams of fiber a day. So always look in the back of the packaging. Make sure each serving size at least have 3 grams of fiber. Stay hydrated. Choose water if you can always. And then reduce stress. So ways you can reduce stress is maybe going to an online yoga class or an in-person yoga class, playing some soothing music, or go meditate with nature, go gardening, spend time with friends and family that you can laugh with. Laughter also reduces stress as well, or even just calling up somebody to talk about things that are in your head. And bottling up things are not exactly healthy either. So things that we can reduce stress have a lot of significant impact on your brain. And lastly, things are not always about one thing, right? So trying to focus on one pill or one type of food or one nutrient, one lab result or one type of exercise is not the key to maintaining health. But balancing all of these, balancing your diet, your exercise, your mindful eating is very important, right? As I talk about, every time you go to the fridge, ask yourself, is this really hunger? Like, are you really hungry? Or if you're just thirsty, or if you're just bored. If you're bored, go for a walk. If you're thirsty, go for the water. But lastly, you want to take out a piece of cake or a brownie from the fridge. And your overall lifestyle is what makes the biggest difference to your health. And labeling, reading your labels, always important. Something that's labeled low fat may not necessarily be low in sugar or sodium. So be careful with labeling. And prevention is always the key. So HealthLink BC is great, and BC Dietitians is great also. So I'm going to stop share this time because it's been a long session. Take a little 3-second break, and we're going to go into the kitchen where I will be having some fun with everybody. Okay, cool. So Lilia is one of my volunteers, and she's studying nutrition and health, right? Okay, so while I did my presentation, I actually have some potatoes on boil, so it makes life a lot easier when I'm cooking. I didn't tell you guys what I'm making, but I'm going to tell you and reveal my cooking demo today. So I'm actually going to make some curry powder with you. If you have curry powder at home, go ahead and use that. I like to make it from scratch, and you can be, have a lot of fun with different spices. So I have some cinnamon here. We talked about how cinnamon helps you prevent Alzheimer's. Also some turmeric here. Make sure you're not wearing white when you are using turmeric because it stains all your clothes, but you can always use some bleach, don't worry. It's just food. And then I have some paprika here. So there are a lot of different colors already involved. Some cumin. I love the smell of cumin. I usually don't like to buy spices already grounded because you have to use them a little bit more quickly, but some spices you can only buy grounded. So another good example is these coriander seeds. So coriander seeds are beautiful, and they're actually the seeds of like cilantro, but they have a completely different taste. And I love to buy these untoasted and also not grounded, okay? And then we also have a little bit of cardamom. Cardamom is a green pod, and it's usually a very prominent Indian food, but you actually don't eat the pod. You actually have to take out the seeds in the cardamom. And I have this thing here. It's called a mortar and pestle. It's very, very exciting because as you grind the seeds, you can, I'm just gonna smush this with my knife so this pods come out. There we go. And it smells like kind of chai tea. So I only need one pod. And I have about a teaspoon of cardamom in here. And this you can throw into a soup. So I have 1 pot of seeds for the cardamom. I have a little bit of fennel also, if you like the Sarnese licorice flavoring. You can add fennel. You can also omit it if you don't like fennel. Oh, and then some cumin. I have about ½ a teaspoon of cumin here. And then I'm going to scoop out a little bit of paprika. So I have 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of, oops, thank you, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, a little bit more also, it's fine. And then a little bit of cinnamon. So ½ a teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay, and then you can also add some onion powder or garlic powder, but today I'm using some fresh garlic and onions in my curry, so we don't really need to use that. So you guys can see how beautiful this looks, the color, and you can use your mortar and pestle and start grinding it. Again, you don't have to buy this many spices. You can also just go and buy the curry powder that's already made. But I love this because it makes my whole kitchen smell awesome. So I'm going to ask Lilia to finish grinding this for me. And I'm going to go ahead and start cutting different vegetables. So I have some carrots here. I have a tomato. I have some bok choy. You can kind of fuse different types of vegetables. And what I have here is a purple potato, right? So what I said before, go out and try different colors of the rainbow. So today I chose a purple potato that are already cut in little cube sizes and boiled for about 20 minutes. I'm going to turn it off because I know it's already tender. And I'm going to start my curry with a little onion. So I like using little onions because you don't have to save the onion. I can use the whole onion one at a time. And that's more for convenience sake. Okay, and then I'm going to chop it into rough chunks. You don't need to have a nice onion. I'm going to turn the skillet on in the back. I'm going to bring you guys closer to my skillet as we finish this. All right, a little bit of onion there. I have a little bit of oil also that I'm going to put. That's 1 tablespoon. And the onion always goes into my pan first because that's the vegetable with more water, so it doesn't burn as easily. Now, when the onion's on, I can easily start cutting the rest of my vegetables. So I have a garlic here that hasn't pounded. It's easier to take the skin off. Just going to add 2 cloves, small cloves of garlic. Again, rough chopping is fine. You don't have to be so meticulous at home. At home is all about flavor and having fun with food, right? Okay, so I chopped up some garlic. So the onions are part cooked. Then I'm going to put the garlic in because garlic has less water in it, so it doesn't need to be cooked for too long or else it will get burnt. And then I'm going to cut some carrots. And the smaller you cut the carrots, see, the faster you cook. Thank you.
One was lost in the process.
It's all good. All right, so I'm also now going to put in the carrots. You can put in a mix of different veggies. It doesn't really matter. It's more like whatever you like. Okay, so I'm going to bring you guys closer to my stove so you can see everything that's happening, and this can be really quick. because all we're doing is cooking up the vegetables. All right, so I'm going to use a spatula to toss around the vegetables that we already have in here. Carrots don't need too much time to cook. I actually don't like mushy carrots. I like the texture that the carrots add to my curry. And then I'm going to add in a Roma tomato. So again, I'm going to rough chop the Roma tomato into quarters. This gives it a nice tanginess to my curry. And then the bok choy I'm going to add also. This is the leafy greens. Bok choy has a lot of different grooves in here, so I cut off the bottom, and now I'm going to rinse it off really quickly again to get all the brine out. And then again, rough chopping the bok choy. And this is probably the quickest curry that you will ever see us do, because a lot of people perceive curry as a slow process, but not really taste, because we already have the curry powder. You see how beautiful that color is? And then once everything is par cooked, I'm going to add in a little bit of veggie stock. Okay. And then I'm going to add a little bit of milk, or what I have here is actually some macadamia milk. You can use coconut milk, whatever you want. And then lastly, I'm going to add in a little bit of tahini. All right, tahini is some grounded sesame seeds. And this will make the curry very nutty. Okay, and once everything boils, because the potatoes are cooked, it doesn't need extra time. So once everything comes to a boil, I can add the beautiful curry powder that we just made. This smells really good, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it also doesn't have to be completely grounded up. I like also a little bit of texture, and people see that you really ground your curry powder at home, so it gives it a little bit more of a rustic look. But if there are whole seeds, you want to help that out a little bit. And because of the paprika, it was already a little bit more spicy than it is. All right, so these purple potatoes, you can see that it made the water really purple already. You can save the water to kind of make a nice dye somewhat. But I'm just going to drain the water out of the purple potato. And then you can add the purple potato in. So give it a quick swirl. And once I added the potatoes in, it already started breaking apart because it's already cooked. And then now I'm going to put in a nice tablespoon or two of the curry mixture. So about 2 tablespoons of the curry mixture. And then now we're going to do the salt and pepper. Just a little pinch of salt and a little bit of cracked pepper. And then now you're basically set with a really nice curry base. You just want to allow the curry to thicken a little by evaporating some of the water and allowing it to cook. And you can serve this with bread. You can always serve it with rice or even quinoa. And that would be a really nice meal. So, oops. I am going to finish allowing the curry to boil. I'm going to make sure that you guys see the curry. It's really beautiful. And once it thickens, you don't actually need to add any flour or starch to thicken it. Just allow the water to evaporate a little. If you don't have time, you can always make a slurry with some flour or some starch, cornstarch. Just add it in and it will thicken the curry. But I encourage you to give it a little bit of time to wait. And you can always add in some protein like chicken or tofu to make that a really nice meal. Okay, so if there are any questions, please email me info@truenosh.com if you come up with questions after the presentation. So thank you for the Disability Foundation and ConnecTra Society for allowing me to do this, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Say bye.
Bye guys.